The last thing we're going to look at in this chapter is some common usage of things where decimals come about. And what we want to do is find the mean. It's called the central tendency. And if I have a collection of numbers, we want to think about the middle of it. So if I have a number line and I have a collection of numbers, there's different ways we can think of the middle. We can think of the middle as the number that has an equal amount of numbers on either side of it. And that's called the median. Or we can think about the values of each number, whatever these values are, and find a weight or balance to them, which we call the mean or the average. And then if a number is repeated often, that's going to be called the mode. And so we have these three ways of finding the middles. And they're called the mean, the median, and the mode. And again, the mean is also called the average. The average is the one that people tend to use the most. And what we do to find the mean is we sum all the values and then we divide it by the number of items. So, for example, test scores are a common one. People worry about their test scores. So if we had test scores of an 87, a 75, a 96, a 91, and a 78. Now when we have a collection of numbers, we sometimes put them in curly braces and we call it a set. But if I want to find the average or the mean of this, I want to add all of these up. So my mean is going to be the addition of all the numbers divided by how many numbers I had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to divide by 5. So I'm going to do my addition here. Put this into a column. Make sure I have 5 and double check myself. 7 plus 5 is 12, 18, 19, 27. Carry my 2, 10, 17, 26, 35, 42. So I'm going to have 427 divided by 5. I said 27. One of the things that I have a tendency of doing is when I'm thinking about the next number, 427 divided by 5, I'll write it because I'm thinking about it. So I was doing 427 divided by 5, but as I was saying it, I wrote the 5 up there. Yeah. Always double check your stuff. I always double check my stuff. So I'll do this division. 5 goes into 42 8 times. Bring down the 7, goes in 5 times. Well, I'm going to have to put my decimal point. I'm going to borrow a 0. 5 goes into 24 times. And I have no remainder, so I'm done. So the average, or the middle, by value is 85.4. Now, we can also do what's called a weighted average. Now, weighted averages happen when there's some value coming across. So let's look at grades again and do a grade point average or some value multiplier. So let's say you had an A in a 2-credit class. So this is the grade, and this is the credits. A B in a 3-credit class, a C in a 2-credit class, a D in a 1-credit class, and an A in a 4-credit class. Well, normally an A has a value of 4, a B of 3, a C of 2, a D of 1, and anything below a D you don't get any points for. So we can convert these grades into grade values. So I'll put the point values for these over here. Point value. 4, 3, 2, 1, 4. Now, the credits really should be distributed equally. So a 4-credit class should be worth more than a 1-credit class. So what we do is we multiply the credit hours by the point value. And so we'll call this the weighted value. So 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 2 is 4, 1 times 1 is 1, and 4 times 4 is 16. So the weighted value is here. Now the average of something like this is the total of the weighted values divided by, well, what is doing our weight? The credit hours. So if I add up my credit hours, I get 5, 7, 8, 12. Right? 5, do I have my credits right? Yep. 5, 7, 8, 12. So 12 credits were taken. And then in our weighted value, we add up here 17, 21, 22, 38. And so the GPA is going to be so we'll call this a weighted mean. And it's the sum of the values times their weights divided by the sum of the weights. The reason it's called weights is this would be what happened if I were to hang things on a lever and try to find the middle from the lever. And so the word weights tends to get there. So let's see, the sum of my weighted values was 38, and the sum of my credits was 12. Right? Sum of my weighted values, sum of the weights themselves, which is the credits. So let me do this division over here. Definitely going to need to borrow a decimal point here. 12 goes into 38 3 times. That gives me 36. I get 2, so I'll bring down a 0. That goes in once. I get an 8. I'll bring down another 0. That goes in 6 times. So that's 72. And I get an 8 while I'm repeating. So this GPA is 3.16 repeating. Or what we would tend to do, 2 decimal places is normally what we round GPAs to. So 3.16 repeating has a whole bunch of 6's coming off of it, but I'm going to round to this place. So this is bigger than 5, so approximately a 3.17 would be the GPA from these particular credit courses. Now, what can happen is when you do averages, if there's some number that's really low or high, it can affect it. It can pull. A very large number can pull the weights over. And so another way of looking at the middle of a group of numbers is to look at what's called the median. And so if these are the numbers, I want to find the median, the first thing I need to do is I need to write them in order. So 2.5 is my smallest number, and I have 2 of them, so I'll cross those out. I think my next number is 5.1, and then in 6.8, and then 9.5. And so in the median, I want to find the number in the middle. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And so the middle of 5, or if I divide 5 in half, that's where we find the middle. 2 goes into 5 twice with 1 left over, so 2.5. Well, what we'll do is we'll look at 2. So I'll take 2 off of that side and 2 off of that side, and the median is that number in the middle. 5.1 is the median of this set of numbers. Now, where we're getting to the median from is we're looking at the order of the numbers and we're picking the number that falls in the middle of how many things we have. Now, sometimes the median's a little harder to find. Let me look at another list of numbers here. I'm going to start the list in order. Right? Normally you don't get these in order, but I'll put this one in order. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8. Well, if I have 8, and that means 8 divided by 2 is 4. Well, if I come over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't have anything in the middle of that. So I'm going to have to look at these 2 that sit where the middle should be. And what I want to do is I want to find the midpoint of these 2 numbers. And I do that by adding them together and dividing by 2. So 78 plus 88, 6, carry my 166, divided by 2. 2 goes into 6 8 times, or 2 goes into 16 8 times, with no remainder. 2 goes into 6 3 times. And so the median for this is 83, because it's right in the middle of these 2 numbers. Now this happens when I have an even number of entries. If I have an even number of entries, I have to do this midpoint. But if I have an odd number of entries, I'll have some entry sitting in the middle because I can get an even on either side. So the median is a way of finding the middle of every piece of thing that I have. All right, I'm going to clear this out and we'll look at the last part of this, which is going to be the mode. The mode is the number that happens the most often. So if I have the set of numbers I had before, again, I'll write them in order. and I look for any number that is repeated. Well, 2.5 is repeated twice. None of the other numbers are repeated. So the mode is 2.5 because it's repeated the most. And these are ways to look at numbers. It's quite possible if you have a list of numbers that there's no mode. Everything, and so it's all right for there not to be a mode coming through. And so these are ways we can describe groupings of numbers. And it becomes the beginning of statistics. So if you take a statistics class, you'll start developing the idea of mean, median, and mode much more deeply. Well, that was chapter 5. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. If you need anything, please email.